Everyone, we have eggs. Hey everyone, today we got eggs, which is always really exciting. So I figured this week's video, we could talk about how we set up the eggs for incubation. She is going to be very defensive. The moms stay with their eggs until they're born in the wild. In this position, she's going to kind of key in on me, but she will try to bite you if you're not careful. So typically you just kind of want to grab them from the tail and pull them up, but she's laying on her tail, so I'm gonna try something a little differently here. Oh, all right, come on. Just kind of grab the tail, pull her up and around. First thing you want to do is inspect her. Make sure she doesn't have any more eggs in her. How we do that, just kind of run our hands along the belly. If you feel any really hard lumps, you can usually just see it. I think we're clear here. We are going to go ahead and put her in a temporary little box and come back to her a little bit later. Looks like we have 9 eggs. One is a slug. Very obvious the difference here. Very shortly after they lay, they stick together. This keeps them from rolling around in the wild. Some breeders just put them in the incubator like that. I like to separate them. If one egg were to go bad, it could potentially overgrow with mold and get bad, and it could affect another egg. So I like to get to them as soon as possible. That makes them a little bit less sticky. Let's go ahead and start separating these eggs, and you just want to do it very gently. So you can see right here, usually you just kind of want to use one hand to peel away, one hand to kind of wedge in there. You're gonna see this right here. Just take your time. One thing I should mention is if for some reason you spring a leak, that sounds terrifying. You think you just killed your egg, right? Not so much, just kind of turn it upright so that the leak is facing upwards so that you minimize as much as possible coming out, and get a little bit of Scotch tape, which we kind of have behind us, and plug it up. Simple as that. People have used Band-Aids as well. Try to keep them facing up the way they were laid, and we'll go into that here in a bit too. Sometimes you're gonna make a decision that it's just not worth it to separate them, because if you're gonna actually make a big rip, that's no good. The reason why we do this is, for one, we're inspecting the eggs, make sure that there's healthy veins in there. The embryo is facing up. It can drown the embryo with it being facing down. The embryo is going to be a little bit of a circle that kind of floats around in there. So let's go ahead and start that. You can see right there, little circle. I'm moving around a little bit there. We check everything else. We've got a lot of healthy veins in here, a lot of red healthy veins, but you can see right there, that little circle, that's our embryo. So we're gonna wanna put that down, facing up. A lot of people take a marker and just kind of exit just in case it tips. I do that too. This one's a little bit of a longer one, so let's put that one right next to it. I believe that's it right there. A little bit harder to see that one, but keep looking though, just in case. You can see near the bottom, it's kind of yellowy. Usually, actually, that's a good way to find the embryo. You find the yellowy bottom, it's gonna be in the exact opposite side of it. So in my slug video, I talked about the rare occurrence of a perfectly white egg not being fertilized. There's some red here, and there looks to be a little bit of a circle. This probably will not hatch, but like I said, sometimes they just hide their veins a little bit. If there is an embryo, this is it. We'll put a sad face on this one because I don't think we got much hope here. Those are supposed to be tears. We'll check it again probably in a couple days just to see. Eight eggs, one that I don't believe is going to do anything. Side by side, you can clearly see, like, this is red. It has a red glow. This is a yellow glow. You can use a few different things to separate your eggs from the substrate or whatever you're gonna be using to hold humidity during the incubation process. I like these Easy Hatch trays. You can get them on Amazon or directly from Reptichip. I like doing these. They keep them kind of up. For a long time, people just use light diffusers. You can just go down to your local hardware store, Lowe's, Menards, if you got those near you, Home Depot. You just buy a big old sheet of this and just cut it yourself, and then that will separate it from the substrate that you use. I use vermiculite, but we'll get into that process here in a bit. So So we got our egg box here. Just get a shoe box, 6-quart from your Walmart or wherever might sell stuff like this, the Sterilite type little tubs. I get the ones with the locks on their eggs, so they're not gonna push their way out though right away. So I use press and seal to help keep the humidity. You want pretty high humidity, above 80% I suppose, but honestly I just go for 100%, and I always have really good hatch rates. I use vermiculite. You can use perlite. Some people use straight sponges and water. Some people use just straight water. As long as you got something to hold humidity in there, you're gonna be fine. Just find something that works for you and make sure it's safe and effective. I kind of just eyeball it. Some people will take a exact measurement and they'll do half and half. And that's, I think, what you're technically supposed to do. But as long as you have a median, something separating the vermiculite from the eggs, I don't think that's necessary. In fact, a lot of humidity is fine in that case. You don't even necessarily need light diffuser or easy hatch. You can actually put them directly into the vermiculite or perlite, but in that case you probably want to get it a little bit more right. Even if you eyeball it, just make sure that you're more, right on that 50-50 mark. So let's go ahead and get this started. It's gonna be a little bit dusty. And you might be adding some vermiculite, some water to it as you go along. I get my vermiculite off Amazon. It comes from Josh's Frogs. Then we want to add some water to it, which I have here. Don't make it too hot or too cold, just kind of lukewarm. Room temperature is fine. Well, let's get started here. Then I just mix it up with my hand. Make sure you kind of get into the corners. Just want to make sure there's no dry spots. You're probably going to be adding more. Best to go under the amount at first, and it's going to expand a little. You want to get it so that it kind of clumps up. I'm actually going to add a little bit more, and you're going to get your hands a little messy if you do it this way. All right, we're ready to put our eggs into the box. These come with these cool little handles. Makes it pretty easy. I just kind of smash it down into there just a little bit. You can see through the empty ones, make sure that's not ridiculously low, but basically you just want to make sure that these eggs, for whatever reason, are not going to touch the top of the press and seal, or if you don't use that, top of the lid, because the moisture, there will be moisture that accumulates on there, and if it starts touching that, it could drown the embryo and kill the egg. So we don't want that. A lot of people might worry the egg needs to breathe a little, and I use a soldering iron. Very, very, very minuscule little holes. So one here, one on the opposite side, 2 on the ends. That and the press and seal, I believe, is breathable through. At least it lets air, some air pass through it. We want to keep as much humidity in here as we possibly can. So that is incredibly important. You don't need to worry about them not being able to breathe. They will be perfectly fine. Remember, they're in the egg anyway. And voila, got a nice little canopy there. I forgot one thing that's optional. Maybe go ahead and do this because it's a direct way of determining the temperature and the humidity inside the box, not inside the incubator. And that would be just with a simple thermometer and hydrometer. I'd use the Zoom Ed one. It has both of them right here. And I just kind of have it sitting in one of the corners. That will tell me directly what is going on inside this box. It's just something I kind of do. As long as you have your incubator set up, perfectly fine. This is just an extra step you can check. Mostly this is going to be for the humidity inside of it. That's why I wanted to do it, because you really don't have anything for that inside the incubator. Double check, make sure nothing's touching the ceiling of it. That is set. Okay, this is a really tight spot because I keep my incubator inside my closet here. Just gonna keep it away from everything else. Creates a little bit of a controlled environment. Make sure that you are set and that you have tested your incubator for quite some time. You can see we already have one in there, an early clutch from the year. Just putting it right there. Then our little probe here, and we're good here. I'm just gonna go ahead and close it off. We'll check on that, that one egg in probably a few days. All right, here we are, the least fun part, and that is just giving your snake a little bit of a bath. I just use a little bit of Dawn soap. Dawn soap is not going to harm them. You can see I just kind of get my hand a little bit, and I really just want to get her belly and her vent and her sides. Make a quick little wipe down, and then we're gonna give her a quick little shower. Don't need to get it really near her head. That's not necessary. Just make sure the temperature is another just lukewarm. Doesn't need to be hot. I don't know if I mentioned this, but the reason I want the egg smell off of her is because, for one, she'll be defensive. and bitey towards me. And 2, they stay with their clutch until it hatches, which is roughly 60 days. She won't eat during that time. And the faster she eats, the more healthy she'll be, and the more likely she is to go for me again next year. The next thing that I do is, you notice I have these on the front of all of my tubs. Kind of, it helps me identify what snake is in what tub. I use pink for female, obviously, but I still notate it there, and the orange for the males though. So we write the laid date and the size of the clutch. Last year she laid a little bit earlier. She had 8 eggs, 0 slugs. So today is Wednesday, the 13th of April, and she laid 9 eggs, and well, right now we know that for sure there's 1 slug, and then if the other one ends up being infertile, I'll put 1 like IF or something. So that way I know, and this can go with her if I ever sell her or anything like that, or I can start researching the history of her. I can start seeing if there's a pattern that I need to follow with her own health when it comes to laying eggs, and kind of determine how I want to go forward with her. If she starts laying slugs and slugging out year after year after year after year, no matter what I do when I put her with whatever male, you gotta wonder, is she infertile? But that goes with her in front of her tub. The next little bit that you need to do is just clean out the previous tub she was in, or if you're gonna reuse that tub, obviously you're gonna probably do that in the same step as me cleaning her off. She's gonna go right back into it. I just switch tubs because it completely eliminates the smell, but you wanna give that one a pretty good scrub. Throw out all your old substrate, do not reuse it. It smells like egg, and she's gonna get that in her head. She's still gonna go into that defensive posture. She'll literally coil around nothing. Plus it's most likely time to give him a fresh bed of substrate. So change the water, clean everything out really well. Honestly, if you're using racks, take out the tub, give a quick wipe down to the top of the inside of the rack, and that way she'll get back to eating pretty quickly. I usually feed about a week later, at least I try to. I don't usually have any issues. Sometimes you might need to switch prey up a little bit. Probably start with a smaller size than what you're normally used to giving them. Sometimes I've even had to go back to mouse. I don't like doing that, but if you do, usually they'll switch right back over to rat, as long as you just do it the one time just to get them used to the feeding again. All right, if you want to see how this process that started today ends, check out this video right here next week where we cut open our eggs and show you what we get.